Hello and welcome. Today we are taking a full look at the brand new Nerf N-Series Infinite. Included, of course, we have the blaster itself. We have the 40 dart capacity battle belt chain magazine. We get 80 of the new N-Series darts, and of course, the instructions. Now going over the Infinite, we do have a couple places that don't seem like they're dedicated sling mount places, but could definitely be used as sling mount places. We have a pretty comfortable grip, but a slightly undersized stock. I have seen smaller from the Elite line, however, this would fit a younger player really well and is still serviceable for an adult. Right up here we have a pretty comfortable pump grip. Interestingly, this blaster does have a bit of prime slop, kind of similar to what we saw on the Nexus Pro. Right here on the left side we have the jam door. It is actually a pretty reasonable jam door, and you can open it while the blaster is primed forward. On the top of the blaster we do have a tactical rail, but on this rail we actually have two places to lock an attachment. Also on the top of the blaster we have the reprime switch. If you prime the blaster, and for whatever reason the blaster becomes jammed and you cannot fire or pull the priming handle back, you can very easily push this with your finger to override that lock. Now right here we have the magazine release. This magazine release is a bit interesting because the way this is set up makes it a little bit difficult to access. I have relatively large hands and I have a hard time actually reaching this with my finger. So oddly, the most comfortable way to remove the magazine is to take your hand off the grip, kind of hold the blaster like this, press it down, and pull out the magazine. But because this has so much capacity and can be so easily loaded without removing it from the blaster, I am pretty okay with this design. You can very easily load darts while the magazine is in the blaster, and it is one of the easiest blasters to actually load. Also, from my testing, they seem to be held in there very well. Now, there are a couple areas on this magazine that cannot be accessed unless you rotate the magazine manually. When the priming handle is in the forward position, this cannot be rotated. To allow for free rotation, you have to prime the handle back, and then you can very easily rotate through. The magazine rotates on the prime forward. Once you have darts in this blaster, it is very easy to operate. It is a pump action Springer. Unfortunately, it does not have slam fire. The blaster operates smoothly and is a very fun experience. But I do want to say, something that is not going to show up at this range, from my testing so far, and this could be just my particular model, the Infinite has the most inconsistent trajectory of any N-Series blaster. I can't figure out why this is, but the spread is very noticeable even from distances as close as 10 feet. I haven't seen this behavior with the other N-Series blasters. Sure, they are not the most accurate thing, but at only 10 feet, it is not actually the dart's fault. It is noticeably the Infinite itself. Now with all that said, let's take the Infinite outside and put it over the chronograph. Okay, here we are outside with the N-Series Infinite. I did forget to mention that you do have storage for 16 N1 darts on the front of the battle belt. The darts seem to hold in really well, and it's actually a very convenient place to have spares to be able to take them out and load them directly into the magazine. As an N-Series blaster, this should be hitting between 80 and 90, 87, 86, duplicate 86, 87, 88, and 85. So that performance is pretty alright, but I would say a tad bit under what I would have expected. We didn't get any shots into the 90s, and we did get shots into the 90s with the agility, and the pinpoint only had shots into the 90s. So this is certainly not the hardest hitting blaster in the line. Now let's fire some shots downrange. The belt feeds very reliably, and this is a pretty smooth and fun blaster to use. Also, like I said, dart storage is in a great place, and reloading this blaster is a breeze. But I will say, like I mentioned earlier, this blaster is not super consistent as far as trajectory. The N-Series dart is certainly not perfect. It's not as consistent as any hobby grade dart. Sometimes they fly great, and other times they veer off. but with this blaster, it is not just the dart. From as close as 10 or 15 feet, the spread becomes ridiculous. And when I'm firing downrange, that inconsistent trajectory begins to show to an even greater degree. That is definitely something I wanted to point out, and if you have an Infinite, I'd love to hear if you are having the same experience. So what are my final thoughts on the Nerf N-Series Infinite? The Infinite is a super fun blaster. The pump action is smooth. The battle belt, as they call it, is a really cool magazine design that feeds very reliably and allows you to load on the fly super easily. Also, the 40 dart capacity is massive, and I definitely appreciate the fact that you get 80 darts in the box. Plenty to fill this thing. The inconsistent trajectory with the Infinite does bug me, but I am keeping in mind that for one, the Infinite has a massive capacity, and for two, that this is not a pro-grade blaster. The Infinite was not designed to be a super hobby-grade competitive blaster. None of the N-Series blasters are. But for younger foam flingers, and for those who just want to have fun, the Infinite is a really cool blaster that works really well with a unique new magazine design set at a, in my opinion, very reasonable price of just under $40. This is not the most inexpensive blaster, but for a Nerf flagship, $40 for what you're getting with this blaster is basically unheard of, especially considering that you're getting 80 darts in the package, which is double your capacity. So yeah, overall, while the Infinite is far from perfect, I actually think it is a pretty cool blaster for the right person. If you don't like the idea of a proprietary dart or N-Series in general, then of course you're not even going to consider the Infinite, and that's cool. But if you do like the look of this blaster, I am going to give it a thumbs up. Overall, it is a pretty solid offering, and if you are interested, I will have the link in my description. Thank you very much for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts on the Nerf N-Series Infinite. Have a good one, subscribe for more, and happy blasting.